to the woman's cave.
Oh, see, it just started recording.
Oh,
so
hello.
You got hello and welcome to the women's cave. See, that's
I'm
what
not
happens.
talking to the audience today.
It's not. It's your own fault. You should have waited for the record symbol.
My narcissism has been injured, and I'm not talking to the audience.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
Wait, does the back of my hair look right?
No, it doesn't.
Oh,
So you
never
should
mind.
turn
I'm
it up.
talking to the
I was
audience.
about to tell you. I was about to be like, well, no, if my hair looked like that in the back, I wouldn't turn my head.
You guys are mean today. It's the catty edition.
I'm dead, though. You're welcome. And this is Tanya, the fabulous.
Yes.
Say hi, Tanya.
Meow.
Oh, see, there it is. There it is. Even better. Even better. I love it very, very much.
Okay, so now we have to talk about our books because we've taken too much time.
Oh yeah, so we're gonna just talk about. They're gonna give you the top 4, y'all, because I'm tired of saying all the titles, but you can check out it later. Okay, so and I thought divorce was bad with other life lessons, and I thought being grown up is easy. Oh wait, we wrote literary life guides of pop poetry. Need to say that, aka our books. All right, and then if only I were me, and I thought I did my journey alone. You can just check out everything your ladies are doing on no, Tanya has to do her stuff. Everything your ladies are doing at www.andwethought.com. Tanya, what are you doing lately?
Well, right now I'm looking at the lovely cover for 25 Hottest Indie.
Thank you.
But in my personal life or my working life, I am writing a blog called 52 Love, which is intimacy tips for your relationship. And I am about to be Cleopatra streaming on August 23rd because we couldn't perform it live. So now we're going to do it online.
Absolutely. That's fabulous. So, okay, y'all on here to hear
about
us. You're here to hear from our wonderful guest. Wonderful guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name's Megan Mercier. I'm a writer as well, but mostly for TV and film.
Wow.
Coffee, tea. Do you like anything else?
Anything you want to tell us about yourself?
Oh, I can tell you anything about me.
I see you're representing the curls right now.
Yes, they're actually like behaving today, which is really exciting. I ran out of my usual hair product, so yeah, I just kind of was winging it. I have a little dog friend over here who might make an appearance. I live in LA. I'm originally from Alabama. I grew up there and lived in Chicago for a long time, about 8 years. I went to school there and did a lot of theater in Chicago as well. And then, yeah, I co-wrote a feature in 2015 with a fellow filmmaker in Chicago, and that went to Sundance and did the festival circuit. And then I'm sure we'll get into all of this, but then there was like a bit of I moved to LA and it was, like a bit of a roller coaster, and I worked in a lot of restaurants for a while. And then I finally kind of got back in the loop as an assistant about 4 years ago, and then have just been working ever since.
Very cool. I do want to talk a little bit about current events right now, since we are doing this interview during this time. We hear a lot about self-care. What are you doing to maintain good mental health and emotional health?
Wow. Yeah, that's a good topic. I feel like, so within like the last 2-ish years, I would say I've kind of done like a deep personal dive. Just started going back to therapy and just like working on a lot of things that were just kind of, I could feel like were blocks in my life. I'm in my mid 30s. And so I was kind of starting to notice patterns that I didn't like. And so I had kind of like gotten on a pretty good self-care regimen, I guess. And then now that, the pandemic has happened and we have all of these other current events that are happening culturally, it's been a little bumpy, I have to say. I think mostly because my routine is so different and often there is no routine. So I've really kind of had to, and I will admit, like, I think I've not done as well as I should have during this time. I think I've been really focused. I think it's easy for a lot of people to get focused on when things get scary and when they start to turn drastic. Like, I always look like, okay, well, what do I have? And like, where can I put energy out to help other people, or to just like focus on things that I maybe don't understand as well as I should. Like, how can I like prepare myself to be I guess like the most functional and useful and community driven person, like going into whatever phase of life we're going into. And I found that has like compromised me taking care of myself a little bit. And I don't think that's a
Just
bad
remember
thing.
that you do need to take care of yourself if you're going to take care of others.
Exactly.
It's not, that's not an excuse to not learn more and help, but if you don't take care of yourself, you won't be around, or you won't have the resources to take care of others. So cut yourself a little slack.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I've just kind of had to be more attentive, you know, in the last few weeks, especially, and just be like, what are the really like basic, simple things that like make me just feel a little more at ease? And honestly, I think the biggest thing for me is just taking time. Like that's kind of step one, because as I'm sure you can all relate to, there is this shortage of time. I think like in the world that we live in, there's always like something else that you can be doing, or like, you know, this particular period of time aside, like somebody that you feel like you need to hang out with, or somebody you owe a phone call to. And like,
Right.
it's just a lot. And I think I have to just sometimes tell myself like, okay, like if I'm trying to decide, it's so simple between like a shower and a bath. Like,
Yeah.
I should take a shower because that will take less time, and then I can get on to whatever I needed to do. And sometimes I have to like stop and be like, well, if that's how I'm thinking about something as basic as
Bathing.
like, probably I should like find time to take the bath. So,
right. Because, you know, shower is just not going to be as relaxing. It's just functional versus actually relieving some of that stress and pressure that you're putting on yourself.
Okay,
Yeah.
y'all, I need to take a bath. Thank you.
Right? So now I'm like, man, I need to do some of that.
Sorry.
Sorry, yeah.
no.
Seriously.
No. So I guess that was kind of like not a
Are you someone who makes lists, or, you know, gives yourself a schedule on a daily basis?
I used to be, and it's kind of been more of a recent thing that I haven't been doing that as much. Like I feel like I used to be like, and when I say used to be, I mean very recently, like kind of before I started figuring out where I could sort of like loosen the bolts in my life a little bit. And I was very like, make lists, like goal oriented, do this, like hit the goal, and then like don't even acknowledge that you hit the goal, just like move on to the next thing that's a rung above that. And it was very go, 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 go. And a lot of that was my DNA, and I had always been that way. And a lot of it was just like these different like creative aspects of my life that I had chosen. And they sort of drove that. And as I've started to loosen that grip on control, I've stopped making as many lists, stopped making as many plans, stopped like living by this very rigid sort of like, okay, well, I have to do this every day or else, you know, I have to do this on the weekend before I'm allowed to do anything fun or else. But now I'm kind of trying to find that equilibrium of getting back to having lists and having structure that is not constrictive. And so I think for me, just like doing that work right now is really important. Taking time, self-care is for me, like putting my phone away and putting the computer away, not feeling like I have to answer to my phone all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think when I am working, I have to give all of my focus and energy to that. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. And it gets
Which speaks to your accomplishments, though. That's why you are so accomplished, because when you're working, you're in it. You're 100%.
Yeah. So just remembering that, I mean, I think it's exactly what you said a couple minutes ago, that like remembering that I do have to take care of myself, and that like it's not okay to like eat a leftover half of a sandwich over the sink for dinner. Like, I mean, times when like that happens, but my brain in those times always goes to this place of like, well, at least I have like a sandwich to eat. But it's like, right.
I totally understand what you're saying. Yeah. I do live by like schedules in 15-minute increments. And yesterday I realized I forgot to put lunch on my schedule. I forgot. Yeah. What am I going to do? I live by my schedule. What am I going to do? I'm going to eat. That's what I'm going to do. Like I have to talk myself into this I'm going to eat and be grateful that I have options to eat. It'll be a quick lunch, but I'm not going to skip it because it's not on my schedule, you know?
Right, right. It's so crazy when you find yourself doing that. You're like, when did I become this like robot person? But yeah, I mean, I think this self-care thing is an interesting discussion, you know, because people are like, self-care is getting your nails done and like going to Starbucks. And it's like, I got really nervous about that.
For some, sure, but it's not
Right.
going to be that for everybody.
But it really can be as simple as just like sitting still for 10 minutes. If you're a person that feels like every time you sit down, you need to be thinking of the next thing you have to do. Like sometimes just sitting there, I think being aware of what your body, like your physical body and like your spiritual body need in the moment, that to me is like such a big part of self-care. And I think for people especially who are hesitant to give themselves the time to like go to yoga or whatever, like go get whatever your thing is that's your self-care thing, I think just taking the time and space to check in with yourself, that is self-care, you know, because I think if you are consistently doing that over time, you have you're communicating with yourself in a different way, and you can anticipate when you're going to get burned out. You can anticipate when you need a day off, when you need to sleep in a little bit. It's like,
and it helps your work later. You've refueled your body, so you are able to do more work more efficiently when you are working.
Totally.
As my mom would always say about self-care, I'm sorry, just one thing. As my mom would say about self-care, she says, if the world falls apart, it will be apart in 30 minutes. So do what you're doing. It'll still be apart. It's just 30 minutes later and you don't feel apart. So at least you can do it. So that's what she told me. That's what she told me about self-care. And I shared it with Winona always is, hey, it'll be apart in 30 minutes.
I was going to say thank you, Megan, because you're much more accomplished than I am. Or I was going to say include you in
Of course.
Okay, you're much more accomplished than we are.
Yes, absolutely.
And yesterday, I still feel guilty because I gave myself permission to watch 3 hours of TV, which I have not done in 3 weeks. Like just sit there and not watch and be like, well, I wonder how that went with the script and just write it down. No, just sit and be like, I'm watching TV. I still feel bad about it, but thank you.
You have to let your brain rest though. And it's okay to read or watch something for enjoyment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've started some seasons of shows and I'm like, you know what? I have to give myself permission because as my mother said, the world will still be apart in 30 minutes.
Yeah. So, Megan, what are some of the things that are bringing you joy? Like, are you reading anything that you love? Are you watching anything that you love?
I have been I have to say, like, I have really shut down quite a bit during the last few months. I finished working on Love Life actually like a few days before everything like shut down. And it was kind of this time where I was already kind of planning to give myself a break. And then this like forced break kind of happened that wasn't really a break. So I really took the first month to just not do anything, kind of like what you're talking about. Well, no, just sitting on the couch and watching TV, just like making myself do nothing and kind of just ride out the anxiety of that. And so I have done like, this is kind of like an embarrassing thing to say, but I used to play a lot of video games when I was a kid, and I totally stopped doing that because I was like, I'm an adult now, I don't have time for that. And I've just like been playing mindless games on my iPad. Like there was one day.
What are you playing?
I played this like Super Mario game on my iPad for an entire day, And I was like, oh no, this is bad. I shouldn't be doing this. And I was like, whatever. I'm just going to see what happens. Like, is the world going to end if I keep playing this? And it did. I mean, maybe it is ending. It's probably always ending, but I don't think I sitting in front of the iPad.
I think this is just, you don't do anything halfway. When you're working, you are working. When you're playing, you are playing.
I'm going. I've listened to a lot of podcasts.
And I Thought Ladies podcast?
No.
I'm joking with you.
I listened to there's this podcast called You Might Remember This, I think it's called. I'm really behind on it, but it's like about all this like weird Hollywood like mystery stuff that happened like way back in the day or whatever, but they have one that was like about and it's like probably 2 years old at this point, at least. There was like one about the Manson family that I listened to. There's this new podcast. I think that's part of, I think it's an NPR one, but it's like the LA local NPR, KPCC. It's called Samaritans, and it's about this woman who is like documenting, I think particularly one woman in Los Angeles who's homeless, and like how the systems in LA actually function to try and get people off the streets or like get them resources, and like just different aspects of that, but just like really humanizing those people. Been listening to that. I finally like read/listened to Michelle Obama's book, which was like my favorite thing that I've listened to. And
yeah, I listened to that too.
Oh my God.
It's better to listen to that particular one because it's in her voice.
I love listening to her voice. Like it was so like calming, weirdly. Yeah, and then
and she doesn't get enough credit for how amazing and accomplished she is, you know.
Insane. Like it really really blew my mind, and there were so many like little things that happened, both like, you know, when that family like really came into public light, when Barack really started running as, you know, a senator and then a president, like there were so many little things that happened to them along the way that they just walked through with so much dignity and grace. And
right.
that to hear her talk about those things again, and to remember those things and see like how they were just these like blips in the news, and they were major things, like the way that she was perceived by people and how she had to soften her image. And it's like, this woman has like worked harder
than all of us.
Yeah, like, is it really the worst thing in the world if she makes her face look a certain way, like as she's delivering a sentence? Like it just
right. Is this what you want her to have to focus on when she's talking?
Yeah.
The clothing that she's wearing and her hairstyle, or do you want her thinking about what is important to the nation, you know?
Yeah.
You guys.
Yeah.
Hi.
Sorry
y'all.
for the host to jump into this
Yes.
conversation. We are having a storm here.
Yes.
Oh no.
So if we totally freeze, and yeah, we're gonna totally record this because that's how we roll on our show. If we totally freeze, we leave it to Tanya to like finish up for us. Okay, Tanya, we love you.
Yeah. No worries, I'll handle it.
While I have your attention, I will quickly just go ahead.
I'm just gonna steal all the footage and make my own podcast, okay?
Actually, no.
Episode 1.
That doesn't fit in your schedule.
We're gonna put it on the ladies' channel. We're like, Tanya finally did what we asked her to do. So
yeah, I shouldn't even joke like that. Oh, you're not going to come up with your own show? Well, we'll just keep asking you to interview all the most important people, okay?
Because that's how Winona and Jade roll.
Exactly. Oh, while I have your attention, I would love to ask how you got into television writing, and do you ever think you'll write a novel?
When I was growing up, I thought that I would write novels. I thought that's what I would do. And then I was in theater. I actually went to college for acting. I went to college in Chicago, and I enjoyed it, and it was always something that I wanted to do, but I think I always felt a little bit of like shame about it, like this idea of like standing in front of people and expecting them to watch you do something. And even though it made me feel really good, like I was like, I'm a person who like I enjoy getting the right answer. I enjoy like winning an award. I enjoy like being told like you did something right, you did something good. And so I think in certain ways like acting really was a way to kind of get that instant gratification, but I always felt a little bit, as I said, ashamed of it. So I would like ping pong between like being in shows and then like working crew for a show, or like I always was also writing as well. Like I knew that I always wanted to do that.
So do you consider yourself an actor who writes or a writer who acts?
I feel like now I just consider myself a writer, because the only acting that I generally do is like in projects that my friends make or something, you know, they'll ask me like, oh, would you play this part? And it's always like a really small kind of thing.
Can I be your friend? Because I have a part for you to play.
Yeah. I was thinking the same.
I don't really write scripts.
Like that. I wonder if I'll go back to it. I mean, there were a few years ago where I thought like, oh, well, once I started writing like in like film and TV format, I thought like, oh, well, maybe I'll just like write something for myself. And I really just naturally kind of stepped away from that more over the last couple of years and been like, oh, I don't feel like I need to be in anything that I write. Like I would, but I don't feel like it would. I feel attached to my projects in that way. And then, so I did, this is like the long way to answer your question, but when I was in Chicago, right after I graduated, I joined this theater company called the Neo-Futurists. And we did primarily short plays. So we had a show that's actually still running, but under a different name. And it was 30 plays in 60 minutes. It used to be called.
Yeah, I saw that. I was just wondering, how did you do that over and over and over again?
It was crazy. It was, I saw it, you know, when I was in college. I had like quite a few teachers. I went to Columbia College, Chicago, and there were a few teachers in the theater department who either were a member of that company or had been. It is pretty well known like in the theater world because it is so kind of offbeat and it's fringe theater, but like you always play yourself on stage. And yeah, 30 plays in 60 minutes is insane. Like the process for learning how to do it is really crazy, but you basically like, as an audience member, you walk into this show and you're handed a list of 30 play titles. And there's a clothesline that hangs above the stage with the numbers 1 through 30 on it. And then once the show starts, like once it's explained to you, they start a timer and you call out the number of the first play you want to see. And obviously like
so it's not even in the same order every night. You just have to switch every 2 minutes to just who knows.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So the first couple of shows that I was in, I don't remember them really. I mean, it was full on like, I remember the timer started and the show started and I just kind of blacked out. And it was weird. It was like my body went into this autopilot that I didn't even know I had because like you memorize all your lines and stuff like that, but you don't know what order they're coming in. Mm-hmm. As you said, like there's also things that have variable elements to them because they're, again, you always are yourself on stage. You're not a character. So something could happen or a question could be asked during the course of the play where you have to respond, you know, honestly, or your truth that day might be different than the truth that you had 2 days before. So it's very spontaneous. There's interactions with the audience, you know, and that also is going to change the pace of things. And it's,
I bet it kept you sharp though, huh?
It did. Yeah. I mean, that piece of my brain, I developed a lot of different skills. Like I had always been pretty good at memorizing and things like that, but just having to be on your toes in that way, I almost feel like I was supposed to transition to film and TV because those skills were like instantly transferable in ways that I didn't even know they would be. Because I think that flexibility and that ability to like turn on a dime and expect 30 things at once and know that one of them is the thing that's going to happen next is, I mean, that's a lot of jobs, but that's definitely film and television work, like every day.
Wow.
So
okay. Now I don't want to like work in film and television. Thank you.
I still want the craft table though. Yeah. Craft services. So
wait, I'm so sorry. Can we do a one little narcissist question from Winona? If we ever like come to visit LA and you know we're actually friends at that point, can we
give you a carry-out box and then you just put some craft services in and then write our names on it and we'll just come by and pick it up.
It'll be about 3 of them though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
You can also come by like 2 or 3 times a day, depending on how long the
pandemic is.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. I wonder what that has been a big question. We're like, what is craft services going to be like after the pandemic?
Right?
I've been thinking about it. It keeps me up at night sometimes. I'm not gonna. And I've been
one day
it's a lifetime goal of mine.
She's like, one day when I get on set, not to meet the actors or anybody big on the set, just to eat the food. I need it to be still awesome.
You don't even need to get on a set. Like, what a lot of people don't know is that most writers' offices are like stocked. Like, you know, there's always that kid who like you really wanted to get invited over to their house because they had like a trampoline and they had gushers and like, you know, cherry 7-Up. Like, that's the writer's office a lot of times.
Yeah, that's what we've been begging writers.
The real reason she's more a writer than an actor now is because craft services is better.
She wants the gushers and the 7-Up. And you know what, Winona? I don't blame you one bit. I'm right there with you. I'm about to write my way there. Let's do it. I don't care about the paycheck. I just want to eat some food.
It'll save you a lot of money. Yeah.
So what's it like to be in a writer's room?
I love it. I mean, I think every writer's room is very different, and I've been really lucky so far to be in smaller writer rooms that were very welcoming and collaborative, and that were structured like somewhat loosely, just in the sense that like I've heard, I don't know if I'd call them horror stories, but I have heard stories that weren't very enticing about like, oh, if you're in a room and you're at this level, like you should never say anything too funny because if people laugh at your jokes, like then you're a threat and you won't get rehired. I mean, just like crazy stuff. I mean, stuff that I think is crazy, but that hierarchy I think is really terrifying for people. And I first came in as an assistant and I was really prepared to be treated like I didn't exist, you know, like I really thought I'm just supposed to be invisible and like slip in and slip out.
So because of the hierarchy or because you're a woman?
Well, I started at the show Transparent, which that was like such kind of like a feminist, like gender revolutionary sort of place that I didn't feel scared at all as a woman going in there. I actually felt like, thank goodness this is where I'm starting out, because I knew that I wouldn't have to worry about that in the same way. But I think just because I was an assistant, it was like, oh, because you're this person, I had just learned from other people, like you just want to do everything as perfectly as possible. And if like no one notices you're there, that's kind of the best case scenario. And like right away, I was invited into the room to just sit and observe and participate. And people would like just talk to me like a normal person, like the other writers.
They're very welcoming to you.
Yes, completely. And then when we were in production, I was completely welcome on the set too, you know. And there's like, when you're on set, usually there's like the little area where you can sit called Video Village, where they have the monitors. And then all the like director's chairs are behind there where like the producers are watching, and, you know, the showrunners or whoever is like in charge, whoever's like an executive producer is watching the monitors while people are on set. And I didn't know that like an assistant should not ever be hanging around there unless they're like invited to. And I figured that out just from that not happening to me. Like, I don't know how to explain that, but it was like, I was so welcome there, and I was like pretty polite, you know, and tried to sort of like know my limits, I guess. And no one ever like said anything nasty to me about it. It was like, I knew to get up when there was somebody important that walked over, you know, and like make sure I had done everything that I needed to be doing. But, there was this sense of like, no, you're welcome here. Like, you've been invited into this world, into this space, and you don't get paid that much. So like, take advantage of being able to see and learn.
Right, all the input that you get just being in the environment, right?
Yeah, and just watching
the craft table.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just had to add the silly in the craft services.
And the craft services, right? You can just take whatever you want. You can eat Cheetos all day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner if you want.
Especially when you're not on camera, huh?
When I first read about this thing called craft services, I felt that it was truly mean to be able to be in front of the camera and have all this food all the day, of like food that you would want to eat.
It really is. It really is.
Because you need to be that tiny. And then I figured out that the writer's room had it. And I said, I told my mom and dad at that time, I was like, Mommy and Daddy, I'd like to write for TV. because I'm going to
Yeah.
But
Well,
anyway,
Megan, how much rewriting happens once you're on set? Like, so you have a script, but things change.
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, and I've only really worked on 2 TV shows at this point, it does change quite a bit. I mean, not drastically, usually, but there are, there are nips and tucks, like while you're on set, like as you're watching a scene play through, or like an actor might come over and just have a question about like the motivation or like what the line means, and they may suggest like, oh, I think it makes more sense for that person to say this, or little things like that here and there. In terms of major scene rewrites, that can change any number of ways, and it can change for any number of reasons. It can change because something that you have shot today, you're realizing like, oh, wow, the actors did this amazing thing with it that we didn't expect. Like, let's tweak this scene that we're going to shoot tomorrow or in a couple of days, like to play off of what they did. It could be, I mean, I think the most common scenario is that like you get a network note or you get a studio note that they want you to change something. They may also sometimes be a little bit behind on reading latest drafts of scripts, because obviously they're reading drafts for like all the shows that
Right.
their studio or network is doing. So the ball may kind of already be rolling, and they may be like, oh, hang on, we saw this thing, like let's change this or whatever. But I think that everyone's pretty primed. Everyone, meaning like the writers, the actors, the crew, they're pretty primed, like I said, to expect anything to change. And I have been on some projects where like scripts were rewritten and distributed like less than 12 hours before we were going to shoot something. And I've, been on ones like that didn't really change that much, throughout the whole episode. So it really
So
just
from draft to filming, how much time goes by for a television show?
It depends on the show. I mean, for some shows, the rooms, like, I think we'll write all episodes before they start shooting, like at all. And for ours, like for Love Life, we had written, I want to say like 4 before we started production. And so then we were just kind of like writing as we went, but everything had been outlined and broken. So we knew where the story was going. It was just like, we had the time during production to keep finessing it. And when I worked on Transparent, I mean, that show changed quite a bit. I mean, you always have like your writer's draft, and then the first draft that like goes out to everybody is generally like a draft that several people have taken a pass on. Like the writer has written it, the room has read it and given feedback, the showrunners or the creators or whomever have given their feedback, the writer's done their tweaks, and then they've handed it in, and then the creator, whoever is like in charge of the show, whether it's the showrunner and creators, they've done their like rewrite of it, which is sometimes a lot, and sometimes it's just like a few little tweaks here and there. Mm-hmm. And then once you roll into production, I mean, you do script colors, like the color changes every time you put out a new draft. And I've been on shows where you went into double color, which means you've gone through all the colors and started over, where you're like double pink, double blue, double yellow. There was like a joke one time when I was working, they were like, I've never been on a show that went to double goldenrod before. I've always kind of been the marker, but I'd say on average, probably about 5 drafts once you have your first production draft, and then prior to that, maybe like, 4 or 5, but those drafts can also be, as I said, like either heavily rewritten or just little
tweaks.
Yeah.
So you said that you finished production right before lockdown happened. Yeah. What are your plans going forward? Are you working on anything new? Are you working on that same show again, just to prepare for when you can film again?
Yeah, so right now I'm just kind of like, I'm a free agent. I have a manager now, so I'm working on like just my own projects. to go around and have meetings and pitch, which, you know, everything's happening over Zoom. And, you know, we're kind of in a new phase. I think there was a minute there a few weeks ago where productions thought they would be able to, things were getting pushed, but it was like, oh, well, we'll still be able to shoot by like September and wrap things by December, you know.
Right,
and,
there's a big burst of casting calls I noticed, and then they closed down again.
So I don't know a lot about what's going on with Love Life right now. We got a second season, so that show's really unique in that it is an anthology. So the protagonists will be different next season, and the story will be different. The like framework of the show, that being like a different character like a different love interest every episode, will be consistent, and it will span a significant portion of the protagonist's life. But, you know, they're gonna want to hire people that can speak to the needs of that show, which is going to be different, you know, than the needs of our show. Like, I don't know, they'll probably have an older actor, you know, or like, I'm sure that like race or religion or anything like that could play into how the show is staffed as well. So I would love to be able to go back. But, you know, we'll see. We'll just see how, like, what they end up pitching and who they end up casting and all of that. But yeah, I don't know when they're planning to shoot it or when they'll be able to start a room and all of that. I think all of it's really still up in the air, you know.
So for those who don't know, where can people see the first season that you wrote on?
So the first season is on HBOMax, which is different than HBO, but it's also the same as HBO. It's like the HBO super platform. And I know that they're doing like a free week trial if you go to the HBO Max website, which I think is hbomax.com. I should know that. Yeah, okay, good.
Otherwise we wouldn't have found you.
Yes, okay. And like, you know, you can download that app on Apple TV. For some people, if you have HBO Go already, you'll automatically have an HBO Max account. But then some people that had like HBO Now, I think didn't get an HBO Max account. It's like a separate thing until everything merges. So, but at the very least, you can at least get the free week. And if you get the free week, you will definitely
have time to binge it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah, about the show. Just wanted to say that. I mean, there's some interesting bits in it, quite a few, but the writing is amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was that room was a really awesome experience. It was really small and
it was very honest to like relationships and love and modern dates for a person. So I was like, wow, how did they find that much honesty? And they're like, no, I'm putting that on the page. No, that's staying. And you're like,
that's real life.
No.
Yeah. I mean,
finishing school in me, but I'd have been like, yeah, too much.
Well, writers' rooms are very, at least the ones I've been in, are very, people are very like open and honest and bring all of their experiences to the table and are encouraged to do that. And so it's just kind of like up to your own personal discretion how much you want to share or what version of stories you want to share and things like that. And then if nothing else, it's like, if you don't want to share your own experience, you can like in your own brain be like, oh my God, I remember when I dated this guy and like we did this or something. And you can just like pitch a version of that for the character, you know, that you're writing for that maybe is a better fit. But there were a lot of them in that show where everybody was like, oh my God, I've dated that person. Like the Magnus character, overwhelmingly, even my stepmom texted me the other day and was like, I dated that guy. Like so many people have responded to that one. And it's like both horrifying and also like, it's nice that people feel like they're seen and that they see that story that they experience reflected back to them. And they can like say like, no, that guy that I dated really was a psycho. Like,
you know, that is one more reason to have a group of people writing these things. You know, we talk about diversity and inclusion. If your writing room is diverse and inclusive, you're going to get all these different aspects and all these different points of view and experiences, and you won't have to force it because
Right.
These will be the lives that people are actually leading, you know?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you
so
guys.
with that, I think I should wrap that up. That wraps up perfectly.
Yeah, it does.
Man, this is why we have Tanya. She's so professional. I love
it. Felt great.
I
It was like
love it.
They're too good to me, but I love them, so. My self-care is keeping them in my life.
I felt like I sat in the backseat of my own
Yes,
show, and I was
yes.
like, "Watch where this will go."
I was like, ooh, this is a luxury ride. I like it very much. This is good stuff. So thank you so much for joining us
Oh my
today.
God, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And thank Megan and Tanya especially, because she like totally
She
did
took the
our
show
hosting
for us.
show for us. And where can people check out more about you, Megan, and find your show again?
Yeah, so the show's on HBOMax.com. Or HBO Max. It's called Love Life. I have a website, meganmercier.com. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, all those places at Megan Mercier. And my last name is spelled like Mercier the bike or Laura Mercier the makeup.
Love it very much, Tanya. Where can people find out more about you? I love
And watch the bar at the bar.
Yeah,
Bard at the bar.
I really love her.
Bard at the Bar, you can go to the Facebook page or just go to bardatthebar.com. And my website is that's MS, not Miss, MsTanyaTodd.com.
I just love her website. Every time she says it, I'm like, man, we should have had a better website. But anyway, you can find out everything your ladies are doing on www.andwethought.com.
Yeah, we know it's not as cute.
I know it's not as cute, but it is what it is, right? So you can go to the ladies tab when you go there and go down to the middle and see the charities that we proudly support. And yes, we know that times are hard, so monetary support may not be a thing for you, and that's okay. You could be like Jade and cleaning out and said, why do I have 17 purple shirts? I don't need 17 purple shirts. Let me donate one of these to like come of these to charity. And even if you can't do that, take a moment, just go to their website, go to the Contact Us page, and thank them for doing the wonderful work that they're doing in the world today, because we all need encouragement, especially in these hard times. So we thank you in advance for that. And remember, wisdom is all around you if
you're open to finding it and accepting it. So peace and love, you guys, from Winona,
Jade, and probably Tanya too, right?
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.